The world of Night City, where extreme violence, corporate exploitation, lack of healthcare, severe pollution, and social decay are among many of the common issues. Now you may be wondering, well, is there actually anywhere nice to live in this city? And ultimately the answer to that is that no, there's not. The harsh reality of Night City is that everywhere is dangerous in some way. The rich areas, although you like to think they are safe, they become a target for theft, and the poor places are just dangerous in numerous ways. Ways in which I will be discussing in today's video, where I'm going to be ranking some of the safest to the most dangerous neighborhoods in all of Night City. Now in this ranking video, there may be a case of me saying the same district twice. Now the reason I'll be doing that is due to there being multiple neighborhoods within these districts that could vary in their safety levels. This is one of the videos that really does start to get better the more you watch it and the more you start to understand how dangerous Night City really is. And of course, if you think there is anything that I have missed in this video, please be sure to educate me and let me know in the comments. As well as that, a lot of my viewers who watch my Cyberpunk content aren't actually subscribed, so if you enjoyed today's video, please be sure to consider subscribing. It does a massive help for the channel. Alright, so I suppose there is no better place to kick off than the safest spot on the map in my opinion, and that would be North Oak, tucked into the heart of Westbrook's elite enclave. Now I like to think this is Night City's version of a gated paradise where the ultra-rich live behind walls of chrome, drones, and massive corporate muscle. If you're looking for a place where bullets don't usually fly and gangs don't tread, even the air is filtered to perfection, North Oak is your spot. But I wouldn't say necessarily to get too comfy here, because this is still Night City, and safety comes with a price. Now North Oak is Night City's crown jewel for the 1%, a sprawling suburb of mega mansions, private AV landing pads, and manicured lawns. Funny enough, the data actually confirms this as well, as North Oak has the fewest player deaths per day. It's a place where NCPD has got heavy presence, Trauma Team is on speed dial, and the gangs don't really dare to go into these sort of areas. The safety here reflects Night City's brutal class divide. It's almost like everyone here is in a bubble, out of the way of the true realities of this city. But as we move on into the city centre, or the Corpo Plaza in particular, we find ourselves another fair amount of safe areas to live. Now in the Corpo Plaza, it is Night City's beating heart, where Arasaka Militech pretty much rule the skyline and the streets gleam like polished chrome. Now this is the closest I think you'll get to safe in sort of the city area of Cyberpunk. Now this place is safe purely because there's so many big hitters doing business here and just living here in general. The amount of CEOs, the amount of high-ranking people just living in the Corpo Plaza, it's gotta be a pretty safe area, you gotta think. Now Militech got their own drones there, and the NCPD HQ is also located right here, meaning that cruisers and MaxTac are literally seconds away. Once again, you'll get that platinum tier response from the Trauma Team, because there is no way that they're gonna let any of those corpos bleed out. You gotta think that being safe in Night City isn't necessarily only not having gangs or thugs patrol your areas, but also the accessibility to safety. Things like MaxTac, things like Trauma Team, they are a massive part of the safety sort of guidelines, if you want to put it that way, in Night City. The easier it is to access these services, the safer you're realistically going to be, and there is nowhere else in Night City that you're going to get a faster response than in the Corpo Plaza. I mean, Tiger Claws might send out a scout from Japantown, or Maelstrom gang members might sort of dream of a heist, but there is no way that they're going to even get that to materialize in a place like this. They would probably have a lot better luck in Westbrook, but in particular Japantown and the North Oak edges of Westbrook. And funny enough, that's where I'll be heading next. I'm going to be discussing these kinds of areas as they are a bit of a step down in terms of safety levels from the previous two. Now in particular with the Japantown / North Oak edges, it's really where you start to see the elite luxury sort of bleed into that neon chaos of Japantown. Now this district is obviously a wild mix of different things. Now this is a area where the Tiger Claws are very active, and I don't know about you, but when there is gang activity in the area, I don't think it necessarily screams safe. And that is one of Night City's biggest issues, because unfortunately for them, they have a gang populated nearly every area. And I suppose that's why I'm putting this part of Westbrook here on the list. It's because the gang activity is a big jump from the city centre, purely because of how much influence the Tiger Claws do have in this sort of area. It's not like it's the most unsafe area in all of Night City. I suppose it's a lot better than what I'm going to talk about later in the video, but it's 100% not exactly the best place and not where you'd want to live in Night City, to say the least. As I previously said earlier, Westbrook's dangers really do reflect Night City's divide. Elites up the road in Norfolk would sip filtered water, while Japantown, people have to go and dodge katanas. However, I think I would rather dodge katanas from the Tiger Claws than live in Haywood. In most particular Vista del Rey, the Glen, and Wellsprings. Now, this is where Night City's middle-class dreams crash into a gang reality, with the Valentinos and 6th Street turning every single block into a war zone. Now, Haywood is billed as Night City's biggest bedroom community, mainly meaning that it's a suburbs of workers, fixers, and families who can't really afford the luxury of Westbrook's mansions, but they want out of the psycho dens in Watson. It is that sort of middle ground. And yes, the middle ground of being in Night City is having to watch your back from being shot by a gang. Now, Watson is split into a few different locations, a few different neighbourhoods. You've got Vista del Rey, and it's quite a flashier area that is Valentino ran turf. The Glen is slightly poorer and has a mixture of gangs, and the Wellsprings is CDPR's deadliest by player kills. And the common theme here once again is the fact that the gangs like to turn this place into their own personal coliseum and really put people at risk. And it's one of those areas where I suppose the mixture of poverty really does encourage and drive crime. The kids join Valentino for family, then you have vets who join the 6th Street for some sort of sense of purpose, I guess. And once again, a very, very good example of reflecting the dangers of Night City's class collapse. You also start to see a pattern here, and that pattern is maybe if Night City police did a better job of stopping gangs, then the place would be a bit safer to live. Speaking of safe places to live, the next I want to talk about today is going to be something I just mentioned previously, and that is the wonderful Watson. In particular, the Kabuki/Northside Industrial District sections. Now, this is a sprawling industrial wasteland that has been turned into a bit of a playground for, once again, you've guessed it, gangs. Now, this is a very bad neighborhood for numerous reasons. The main reason, however, is due to some familiar faces we know as Maelstrom. Now, Watson is the beaten or the bleeding, I suppose, industrial core of Night City. Is split between Kabuki's neon-drenched markets and Northside's industrial district with abandoned factories and warehouses. It was once a boom town for corporations and Militech and Arasaka. It now is a decayed shell of what it used to be. Kabuki, I suppose, is the safer half of this area, the street food and clubs like the Mox Turf, but even here the Maelstrom are taking priority. Out of all of the gangs you'll come across in Cyberpunk, I suppose this is the most scary, the most threatening. I mean, just look at them. They clash with the Tiger Claws on Westbrook's Edge and the Mox in Kabuki. They turn alleys into bloodbaths pretty much. MaxTac is always deployed here as well due to the amount of cyber psychos that are breaking out in the area. Overall, I don't really see much appeal of wanting to live next to abandoned factories anyway. Then when you add an extremely violent gang on top of that, it doesn't really spell safe neighborhood. Speaking of another extremely safe neighborhood, I'm going to be moving on to the Santo Domingo area. More specifically, Arroyo, a sprawling industrial poison pit where power plants choke the sky, 6th Street runs rackets, and breathing there is quite literally a gamble in itself. Now, previously in the video, I was mentioning how the gangs are usually the deciding factor in whether a place is usually safe in Night City. Now, they have a pretty terrible gang, or two in fact here, but when you add toxic waste in the air, that doesn't necessarily sound too great, does it? Now, this is Night City's forgotten factory zone. Basically, the corpos built it for profit and then abandoned it to the gangs and toxins. Nowadays, it is more of a wasteland rather than that corpo boom for Militech and Petrochem. You've got the 6th Street and Valentinos here on the border. And with that, it does feel like most of the time the 6th Street is kind of the law here. It is ex-NCPD and vets turned into their own sort of gang. They run protection rackets, extort shops, gun down scavs, and they have war with the Valentinos over turf. Not only the Valentinos, but they also do clash with Maelstrom from Watson and even the Voodoo Boys on Pacifica's Edge, turning Arroyo into a shooting gallery. So yeah, I mean, if you want to go to the place where everyone dumps their trash, the air is toxic and everyone shoots each other, please be sure to check out Arroyo. And after you do that, head down south to see the most dangerous place in all of Night City. And that would have to be Pacifica, encompassing Dogtown, Coast View, and the rest of this forsaken southern hellhole. I mean, this isn't just dangerous, it is quite literally Night City's own apocalypse. A combat zone in Dogtown where NCP disbanded all activity there in 2072, and obviously you have Kurt Hansen calling all of the shots there. In the wider scope of things in Pacifica, you also have other dangerous gangs there, such as the Voodoo Boys and Animals, and they also rule with zero mercy. I mean, I could have separated these and decided which were more dangerous out of the three of these areas in Pacifica, but there was just no point whatsoever. There's no need to argue about which one of these is more dangerous because they're right next to each other. It is all one place. It is all one terrible place, may I add. Now, Pacifica was kind of like Night City's failed dream. In the 2060s, a luxury resort with golden beaches, mega hotels, and a Militech security for tourists and elites. Now, the unification war and economic crash left it in a half-built state, skeletal towers, empty pools, and the rad-soaked sands. So on top of there being nowhere nice to live here, there's also a massive power vacuum that was left in terms of land, which all of these gangs tried to seize. Many years later, they are still literally fighting over war, with each of them establishing themselves in different parts of Pacifica. NCPD are not here, Trauma Team avoid it. This place is pretty bad to say the least. When you then have the three different gangs all going at each other, expanding their turf, it's not necessarily somewhere you would want to live, is it? Or somewhere you would call safe. Pacifica embodies Night City's fall, corpo paradise to gang apocalypse, and I would very much recommend that you stay far away from these areas. But anyway, that will be all for today's video. Let me know if you think I've missed anything in the comments, and also leave a like if you have enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.